So this is a shell of a Nissan S14 that I bought around 6 months ago in hope to build it up to a drift car. Now the first few videos we actually spent fixing all the rust, and there was a lot of it, and we spent a few videos making it look a little bit more like an S14 as well. I then bought an E46 330i to take the engine and the wiring loom out of, as we're going to use that engine with a turbo in the S14. Now in the last couple of videos we started building the engine up to take a turbo, so we had to upgrade the oil pump and we had to actually install the turbo on the manifold and all the other fittings as well. Now we had to convert the engine into a front sump as well, which was a bit of a pain, but in the last video we actually got to the point where we put the engine in the car and we started wiring up all of the wiring loom. So today we're going to finish up the fuel system, the wiring, and we're also going to bolt on the flywheel and the gearbox, and today we're going to start, or try to start, this S14, so I wonder if it's going to run. Buongiorno, which is good morning in Italian. So, in the last video, we did a really long S14, an hour long on the S14, 2 full days, probably even more than 2 full days of work on the S14. Everyone seemed to really like it, so thank you very much, because I actually like doing this stuff. Today we're going to have this engine running. We're going to have this engine running today. Now we've got all the things that we need, which I'll show you in a second, but I'm just going to show you what I did off camera, because it's quite important to start in the car. So come over here. So if you remember in the last video, we got all the wiring for the ignition sorted. So I ordered 2 switches and I quickly put them on. So this one here is going to be our ignition on and ignition off. And this one is a push button, so it's going to be a starter. So it's going to go, that's going to be our starter motor. This one's fine. This one I ordered, it said it's 25 amp, and it came and it said on there 15 amp. 15 amp is probably enough, but because I don't know how big these wires are, I'm not too confident with it, because this ignition is going to be on all the time. So if that amperage isn't more than enough, this switch is going to get really hot. This one's fine because you're only turning it on for, like, 3 seconds for the starter motor. So we'll use this one for now, but I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to keep it, because 15 amp is quite low for ignition to be on 20, like, all the time. Now in the last episode we did end the video saying that we had to make something up with the fuel rail. This BMW is a non-return rail, meaning that it only sucks enough fuel that it needs into the fuel rail, where old cars have fuel in and fuel out. I thought I was going to have to take the fuel rail off and get an AN6 fitting welded on the end, and then send that to a fuel pressure regulator, which I bought here. Luckily it was pretty cheap. I spoke to a guy who has done an E46 turbo, and he said that he went down this route, fuel pressure regulator route and everything like that. He thought he'd get better boost control on boost. My head, I know you like to look here, but my head is here. Thank you very much. Eyes up here, eyes up here. Now, that guy who's got his E46 turbo said that he went to a mapper and he told him he didn't want him to run a fuel pressure regulator. He told him he wanted to run the stock fuel system. Now, I looked at this and I looked at the fuel filter for an E46, and it has a fuel pressure regulator on the end, which is amazing. So all we have to do is put a vacuum line from here to the fuel filter, and the boost is going to control how much fuel gets to the engine. It might work, it might not work, but it will definitely work to get the car running. We might have to change it later on for better boost control stuff, but to get the car running, this is going to work. So we've got a fuel pressure regulator in the end. We've got fuel that goes in. If it doesn't get used, it's going to go back to the tank, and the fuel pressure regulator is going to open and send fuel to the engine. So all we need to do is mount this somewhere under the car, run one more line back to the fuel tank, and we've got our fuel sorted. We can get it started. So we're underneath the car, and we need somewhere nice to mount the fuel filter. So I think the fuel line is going to come over there, and it's probably best running it alongside this chassis rail here, and then we could probably find a way to mount the filter like that, because you don't want the filter to be lower than the car. If it bottoms out or anything, it's not a good day. So here is going to be nice and safe, tucked away next to the chassis rail. And then we can actually just run. We just need to make sure we've got some vacuum line that's going to be long enough to go up to the top of the engine, up to the back of the manifold. Not too long, but it is going to have to be a couple meters. And then all we've got to do now is just chop this fuel line, put it into this side, put more fuel line going back, and then chop it there, and then put that to the rail. So let's just mount it here, but we don't need to fully mount it. We'll just keep it on the floor for now to keep things simple. Let's chop this fuel line and get it wired up. Now, luckily enough, I had some vacuum line lying around, and there's actually a vacuum nipple on the end of the manifold, which we didn't use because we removed the PCV system. So perfect. So we've got vacuum now. So what this is going to do is that this is like a diaphragm in here, right? So right now, when there's no vacuum on it, I'm not going to be able to suck or blow through this. It's closed. So what's going to happen is, when we've got more boost pressure, that's going to send air down here, and it's going to open this diaphragm so much. So if we're only at 2,000 RPM, it's going to open it a little bit, and it's going to send a little bit of fuel through. If we're on full boost, we're going to have full air coming through here. It's going to open up that diaphragm, and it's going to send the maximum amount of fuel through to the engine, and it's going to be doing this. That's how a fuel pressure regulator works. It regulates fuel pressure. So we've got that plugged in. We're going to chop the grinder here. We're going to chop that there, sort a fuel rail out, sort a fuel line out, and we've got fuel. We've got one more thing to do, and that's install an oil pressure gauge so we know that the engine's not going to blow up, and we're going to start it. Well, we've got to put the gearbox and the flywheel on, but we'll do that. We'll get to it. No, I'm hoping I'm not going to die here because there was a little bit of fuel when I turned the ignition on, so... We'll be right. Before I die from cutting a fuel line with a bloody grinder, we're going to take our Porsche for one final drive because I love this thing. Service in 10,000 miles. Oh, it said 28 days. I was like, what? I got this Porsche very cheap and I absolutely love it. But I got it cheap for a reason. Now, when you're buying cars, a lot of people lie about if a car's been categorized. They'll either just not say it's been categorized at all, or they'll say it's a Cat N when actually it's a Cat S. And Cat S's basically sell for nothing afterwards, to be fair. But that's why that when I bought this Porsche, I wanted to make sure that the guy was actually being truthful, so I did a car vertical check on this Porsche. And a car vertical check can tell you a lot of fun information about your car. The guy was being honest. It is a Cat N. It was written off as a Cat N, which means it's non-structural. It's used just like a door or a wing or something like that. And these Porsches get written off so easy because the parts are so expensive. Also fun to see about the history of the car on Car Verticals. First of all, it will check not just the categorized damage, but it will check absolutely everything. Any finance left on the car, it's going to check any mileage frauds, any history of theft, everything about the whole car is going to check it. The best thing about it is it gives you a full timeline of the car's history, so you can see exactly what's happened to the car since it was registered, every MOT, what it failed on, every change of ownership, every private plate change. This Porsche was actually written off, which I didn't know this until the car vertical check. It was actually written off at the end of 2024, and it took a few months for the car to get fixed, and it was back on the road again early 2025. You can also see when he took the private plate off the car, which is a good indication of when they're thinking of selling it. So you can have a look and you can kind of see how long they've had the car for sale for. Car Vertical will actually give you a graph of all the mileage records, and interestingly, this car did so much mileage in its early parts of its life. I think it did like 50,000 miles in the first couple of years, and then it barely got driven for about 7 or 8 years, and then it's only just started creeping up recently. The Car Vertical is saying that average this car is around £30,000. Now, I didn't pay anywhere near that, but that's because I knew it was a Cat N. But if you get stung and you buy a car and you find out after you've bought it that it's Cat N, you could potentially be losing 50% of the value of that car. Have a peace of mind when you're buying second-hand cars. Although it's illegal to hide categorized damage on cars, a load of people still do it, so don't get stung for the sake of a small price check to know exactly what's going on with that vehicle. So check your car now on Car Vertical. There'll be a discount code on screen and a link in the description. That's fuel there, guys. That potentially that could have been the end of Lee Lockwood. Well, at least the fuel pump's working. I mean, we're going to finish it off because there's no fuel in it there. But don't do this at home, guys. What I just did, don't do that at home.
So now we've got the fuel line cut in half. We can install one end to the output of the fuel filter and one end to the input of the fuel filter. Now we are going to have to run another line from the return part of the fuel filter back to the fuel tank. And luckily I had some spare leftover braided line here, which is the perfect size for the nipple. And we can tighten it all down, and that is our fuel system done.
We've got the fuel. The last thing we need to do is do an oil pressure gauge. We need to see oil pressure. And we want to see a healthy number of oil pressure before we even try and turn it over, because we want to make sure that oil pump and the pickup is actually working. So we want to make sure that we're A, getting oil pressure here at the oil filter housing, and B, we want to make sure we're getting oil pressure at the turbo. So to do that, we're just going to crack that off and just crank it over and just make sure we've got oil coming out of there. But for the actual engine itself, we want to see oil pressure. Now, luckily, I've got an oil filter housing on this here. Luckily on my one, it's got an oil pressure sensor and an oil temp sensor on there, which means it gives us two separate places to take oil from. So I've ordered another T-piece to go into that oil temperature sensor. Now, annoyingly, this oil temperature sensor is really long. Now, I was hoping to put it in the end of my T-piece to have oil temp on the dash, but unfortunately, this is too long and it's hitting. So I think we're gonna have to figure that out in the long run. But for now, this means that where we can bolt this into the engine, we can bolt our oil temperature, oil temp sender, and then we've got a gauge here as well. So we're gonna run the gauge probably just loosely for now, just so we can see that we've got oil pressure. So this is what little things that take ages. So we've got the oil pressure gauge, oil pressure T-piece here. So obviously, I've only got a gap there where my oil pressure sensor is actually going to fit in there. So that means that I need this thread to be pointing up that way. But sod's law, every time you tighten it, it comes round here. So I'm trying to use a load of different size buddy washers so it tightens this way. So you see what I mean? So now I've got it in the right place. So I've got a bigger washer and a copper washer on there. Again, it's not perfect, but what are you going to do about it, you know? And that gives me enough room in this little gap to screw on my oil pressure sender.
Now, wiring an aftermarket gauge like this is very simple. All you need to do is just find some leftover wires from somewhere, and you basically just need 3 wires. You need a positive, a negative, and then you just need the signal wire going from the sensor itself to the gauge. Very simple, and we're just going to run it straight to the battery for now, because all we want to see is we're getting oil pressure before we crank it over.
So this should light up unless I've done anything wrong, or unless this battery is totally flat. This should light up. Nice.
Now, to turn the engine over, we need to bolt up the starter motor, and to bolt the starter motor up, we're going to have to put on the gearbox. But the starter motor needs to turn a flywheel before it can turn the engine. So we have got the old flywheel here. Now, we're not going to be using this long term because we're going to be getting a twin plate clutch which comes with a lightened flywheel. But for now, we can use this flywheel to start the engine over. So we're going to put the flywheel on and then put the gearbox on. Now, we're not going to be driving with this car, so we're not going to spend time tightening up or torquing the bolts down or anything like that. I'm just going to get them with a gun, just so we can start this engine as quick as possible.
I hope it does just go in. Thing is, I need to get underneath it. But this is the scary bit, because it fucking... I'm a fucking legend, lads. Is it going to be one of those where I've got to slide the bolts in first? I mean, it's on, but my God, are them bolts going to be a fucking bastard to get to at the top. And the thing is, it only really needs to be on a few bolts. I know what I can do. Slide that round, pop that in there, slide it back. What do you fucking mean? So we've got like 6 out of 8 of the bolts on. They're actually all pretty good to get on, and right now the gearbox is fitting, but the starter motor is quite difficult to get on. Feels like, oh, there we go. And the starter motor itself is very, normally most cars, I put the bolt through this way and it goes into the box, but I'm like, what bloody bolt is this? But looking at it, it goes from the back, which is going to be quite fiddly, but Oh, there's one. Get in there, you bastard. Tighten it down. Are we good to start it? What do you think, Gary? Are we good to start it, mate? Is it going to run?
It's going to run.
Is it going to run?
What do you reckon?
What do you reckon?
Well, it should do.
It's going to run like shit, but it's going to run.
Oh, it's going to run, isn't it?
Right, the starter is quite hard to get to, so I've got all these extensions. And you can just get on it. Right, the gearbox actually went on so nice. I actually can't believe how easy that was. We've not got a clutch in it, but don't worry about that. One thing we've got to do is, I haven't got an oil filter here, and I want to start it up now, and I can't be asked waiting. So we're just going to just have a quick look at the old one, just make sure it's not falling apart, and put some oil in it. I'm going to go for the first start. Gary's very excited, aren't you, Gary? No. He's not happy today because he's doing a wiring loom on a Beetle. I am going to change it, but for now, I don't know if I can be bothered. Oh, I don't know. It's pretty bad, that, actually. It's pretty bad, though, isn't it, guys? It's pretty bad, that, mate. So let's have a tea break. Let's ring. Tea break. Well, hey, here we go, guys. Let's have a tea break and let's order a filter for that. Right, we've ordered an oil filter. The dipstick was the final thing, so you can see we've got it in there. We had to put an O-ring in, it just slips right in. But this bracket, this was welded like to here. This was like, so I had to cut it off to get it to fit because I couldn't get it in the hole. So we need to make another bracket. So obviously this dipstick was meant to go at the back of this engine, not the front. Now there are two little things here on the manifold which we can bolt to. So we're gonna have to just make some kind of a bracket, because otherwise I'm gonna pull that out, it's all gonna come out the sump. So we need to make some kind of bracket to stop. We can actually probably reuse this, to be fair. So I'm gonna flatten this out, and if we can bolt it to there like that, that'd be absolutely perfect. Just get the welder in, and just put a couple tacks on there.
So again, we're not going to overthink this. I'm just going to just flatten it out with a big vise, and then there's a nice bit of manifold that we can actually bolt it to. So all we've got to do is just put a few tacks and just bolt that bracket back to the oil dipstick tube. We don't need to go too hot on the welder, don't need to be too strong, it just needs to hold that in place. So just at a nice low heat so we don't melt through anything, and just make a few tacks and bada bing, bada boom. Right guys, I have pretty much done everything. We've got the oil pressure sensor wired up to there so we can see it when we're cranking. All done, guys, all done. We've got the dipstick in, welded up, sorted. We're done. We've got no belt on, which means we've got no water pump, but that's fine because I'd rather water not go everywhere anyway if it's not got a radiator on, so sweet. We probably are going to have some oil leaks from some places, I'm not going to lie, because we've changed so much and we've got a load of adapters and shit like that, so we probably will have some oil leaks. But for now, we're going to put some oil in her. I'm still waiting for the oil filter to come from GSF. So I'm hoping that'll be coming soon. So we're going to put some 5W30 in her, ready for the first start. To be fair, I mean, we've done this pretty quick, to be fair. So we're going to put some fresh oil in her, fresh filter, gearbox is on. We've not got a clutch, so don't worry about that, but we want to wear this baby purr. She's going to run like a bag of shit, I'm not going to lie, because we've got no MAF sensor in. The injectors are twice as big as they were. We've got a turbo on it. It's going to run awful. But I'm hoping that with the MAF sensor unplugged, it'll just go into like some kind of like limp mode and just idle, which is all we want to hear. The main thing we want to hear now is that we've got the wiring. We've got the wiring sorted, because that's the main thing. If the wiring's sorted, it's going to start, and then the rest of it, getting it running right, is what we're going to be doing with a map and stuff like that. But we're just going to get it idling, because when it's idling, we can then get the mapper to get on the computer and we can start doing some I don't know, mapping things. I'm not a mapper, I don't know, but we just want to hear this baby purr. Now, if it runs, this is going to be amazing, because
to get the E30 running, it took me a while. It took me a while to get the E30 running. Load of wiring issues and stuff. So the main thing that I'm looking for is that I've learned from my mistakes from the E30, and this just fires up straight away. If it does, I'm going to be a very, very, very happy guy. We've got no throttle either, so we'll see. We're going to have to just wing it. I just want to hear it at least running and idling, you know. An oil filter has arrived. Oh my God, this is actually getting real now. We're actually going to start this. Right, we don't want the engine to start until we've got oil pressure. So the easiest thing to do is just come and unplug the fuel pump. That's the easiest thing. So we're not going to get any fuel. So it's not going to start. Right, so, oh my God, the day has come. I never thought this day would happen, but here we are. We're not going to start it up, we're just going to crank it over. So I've got my oil pressure gauge here, and I'm going to have it looking towards me. And we should be seeing around 10 to 20 PSI on crank. So as long as it comes up, we're going to go for it. So, in the car, we've got ignition. I'm going to test my new switches here. We're going to get crank, Gary. Whoa! I'm scared. Gary, I'm scared. We've got the turbo line off as well. So Gary's going to keep an eye on that. We're going to wait till it squirts out of there. When it squirts out of there, we should get oil pressure because they're both coming off the oil filter housing. What are you saying, Gary? It might take a while for it to come through. Right. Still nothing. Pardon? Whoa, 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 whoa. We got oil there, yeah? Oh, we got oil. Oh, shit. Yeah, right, we got oil.
So we're getting oil at the turbo, which is great, which means the oil pump is working. Now, I'm not going to fire it until I'm still getting the right numbers on that oil pressure gauge. What we can do now is we can bolt the turbo back up, and this is going to prime the turbo. We're going to get oil through the turbo before we actually go for the first start as well. So I'm going to keep cranking until we see a good oil pressure.
Oh, it's raising. It's rising. Yes! Yes! Right, we've got 20 PSI. That's what we want. That's healthy. That's a healthy amount. ChatGPT was saying anything over 10 for cranking is going to be good. So we're all right. We've got oil pressure. Woo! Right, Gary, are you ready? Oh my God, this is some scary shit. This is some scary fucking shit, boys. I'm sorry, I'm scared now, I'll tell you. It's going to be loud, boys. It's going to take a while for that fuel to come through. Woo! Woohoo! Woo! Oh my God! Sounds like a Camden V8. Oh yeah! Oh yeah! Woohoo! It fucking runs! Oh my days! She fucking runs! It's a bit smoky. I think that's just from the oil from the turbo probably burning off. Or the manifold inside the manifold. Oh my God! Oh. I can't rev it annoyingly because I've not got a throttle cable. I don't know if I can get, actually, no I can't. Oh, I've not got a throttle. I forgot to take the throttle accelerator from the E46. Oh my God, what the hell? We're going to start her up again and we're going to make sure. This time, I was that excited, I forgot to check the oil. Let's go again and let's check the oil pressure when we're idling. That fuel is God knows how old as well. So we're going to go ignition. We got 60 PSI oil pressure, which is more than enough. And don't forget, we've got big vacuum leaks. We've got PCV here, which is leaking all over the place. We've not got a mass sensor on, we've not got an airbox. She's running. Woo! Now that smoke that you see in there is black smoke, and that is running rich as f*** because their injectors are absolutely massive. Pumping probably twice as much fuel in there as it would be from standard. So it's running rich as hell, which is what all that smoke is. Oh my God, I can't believe it's running. And we're not really leaking anywhere. I can't see any leaks anywhere, which is unbelievable. Oh my God. I want to rev it so much, but I've not got a throttle cable. Oh my God. Right, so it's running. What do we do now? Now, we have to make it run like a car and not like a Cummins diesel engine. So we've got to start making up the rest of the stuff now to actually, you know, so we can actually drive this car. And the first thing we need is we're going to need some coolant. We can't have it running for too long without coolant. So we need to start fabbing up a radiator. Now I've got a radiator here, and I believe this is off an S14. I do believe this is off one of Ollie Evans' S14. And it would sit in the little brackets at the bottom really nicely. Well, it does sit in the brackets down at the bottom. Unfortunately, another part of the crash bar is getting in the way. So I think we're going to have to chop this off. We're going to have to chop this off and then figure out how to weld it back on later. But we're going to have to chop this here because right now we can't get anything on. So let's get the grinder out.
Now it is weird why that radiator didn't fit, because that radiator is out of an S14. So it should have fit with this crash bar in mind. So I think this front tubed end has kind of just been thrown together at some point in its life, which makes me feel a little bit better about cutting it apart.
I've got a bit of a problem. Oh, it's the wrong way around. So we have got a bit of a problem because this hose here, you might be able to see it, this one here, this goes into the bottom of an expansion tank. So we are going to need an expansion tank for this engine. This is the list of things that we need for the car. So half of these Ollie Evans has advised me with, is an absolute legend. Half of what I needed to know anyway. So I need an RS4 mass sensor. Ollie advised that it would be better to run map sensor if we can. So we need to ask the mapper about that. We need the throttle. So we need to find an E46 brake in and get the throttle cable, not cable, the throttle pedal, because it's electric. So we need a rad. So we need an expansion tank. Now, Ollie's saying we can actually get one off a caddy. You can get a VW one that works. All expansion tanks are pretty much the same, but it's just finding one which works easy. So we can either get an E36 one, it'll plug straight on, or we can just get an aftermarket one. We need to find out what it is. Astra power steering pump, if we're going to run electric power steering, we might run the one off the car. A 3-port boost solenoid, potentially we need to speak to the mapper. We need to weld the rad up because that is a Japanese rad and we're obviously going for a German system which has an expansion tank, so we need to weld the rad up. It's going to be a job. Intercooler, oil cooler, exhaust, wastegate, clutch pedal. Boom, that's what we need to do. So let's go back to the car and let's go over these options. So now this is a Japanese radiator. This is a radiator for an SR20 and it obviously just has a cap here. So when that cap reaches said pressure, it opens, say if it's getting too hot, and it lets a little bit of coolant out. That's how a Japanese expansion works. Very simple. But now we've got a German engine in here. It's going to be a little bit more trickier. So we've got this hose down here, which is going to go to an expansion tank. It's going to sit like this. And the expansion tank is going to be the point of filling the car. So that's going to mean we're going to have to weld up this hole here. We're going to have to weld up this hole where the original one would be on the Japanese system, or we buy a new radiator. But we've got this radiator here, it just makes sense to use it, but as you see, this one's broken. So we're going to take that to AirTech. We're going to send some pictures to AirTech and see what they recommend doing with this, and see if we might just get an expansion tank from them as well. But in terms of an expansion tank, the one on the Caddy that we've got there will work. So this is the expansion tank on the Caddy. It's just a plastic one. You can get them really cheap, and that's going to work. So as you can see, it's got one hose here, which goes back into the coolant system. So we can obviously just put that back into the coolant system with a T-piece. It'll have a bleed on here somewhere like a vent. And then it will have a hose on the bottom, which is what that hose is that we just grabbed on the BMW engine there. So we can just get one of these. These are probably like a tenner. It's going to look not as good, but it will work. Okay, so where does that leave us? I've spent around the last half an hour doing some research and looking at parts on eBay. And right now, we're at the stage where I can't really do anything with what I've got. I've got to order a load of stuff. I've got to order an expansion tank. I've got to take this to WearTech to get welded and get a fitting welded on. I've had to order the clamps for that fuel filter so we can clamp it to the chassis rail. I've ordered a throttle pedal. I've ordered some more things off eBay. Sorry, I'm looking at my whiteboard over there. And then things like intercooler, oil cooler, that's got to wait until the radiator's on. Exhaust is far off. Wastegate, again, we can do that, but I can't really do it today. And clutch and stuff like that. So I'm going to start ordering a load of parts and doing some research on what I need, because right now I'm just looking for something to do and I'm just wasting time. So I may as well get this video out, get you guys, show that we've got it running. I can't believe we've got it running. Show that we've got it running, keep you guys updated, and instead of just sitting here wasting the whole night trying to just do things when I don't really have the stuff, I may as well just recuperate and order everything and do it in one big video again. So I know this isn't an hour long, this video, but I hope you enjoyed it. I can't believe we actually got it running today. I said to myself today, I'm going to have that engine running, whether I stay until 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. I think it's like 7 o'clock now at the unit, but I had the engine running around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I only turned up here at 10:30. So it's gone amazingly well. I can't believe it. We've got no oil leaks. It's actually dry under there. I did not expect that. I didn't expect it to go this well. So yeah, guys, I'm going to start going and seeing what the best thing to do is in regards to plumbing up. But for now, I love you all. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.